This list of 100 tips will help you never die again in Black Ops 6 Zombies and become a pro. So let's get started. You know the feeling of picking up a nuke by accident and losing a bunch of points? Well, in Black Ops 6, you can actually shoot zombies as they're dying from the nuke and you'll still earn points. But there's a trick you can use to earn them even more effectively here, or maybe efficiently. So you're gonna want the PhD slider augment. And if you've got that on, you'll be able to just slide through all the zombies as they're dying. And that's gonna allow you to kill tons of them very easily for a ton of extra points. Next, we all know that you can skip the perk drink animation just to make your life go a little faster, but there are actually multiple ways to do this, and I think the last one in my list here is the best. So the first one, which most people do, is you can melee the perk machine while you're holding the button to buy the perk. Another option is to actually armor plate while you buy the perk. And third and finally, you can also dolphin dive into the machine. That gets you your 100 points from the loose change, and you'll also get the perk as well, so you kind of combine everything into one. So that's a really fast way to get perky. Next, if you've been buying wall weapons off the walls, but you haven't been zombie building them, you're doing it wrong. In your weapon loadouts menu before you start your game, you're going to want to customize a build and then hit your left trigger to save it as a zombie build. And then if you get that gun out of the box or you buy it off the wall, it will be your version of the gun with your custom attachments, making it a hell of a lot better than if you got the same gun, but with randomized attachments. Now, while we're on the topic of weapons, a little bonus tip here is that the suppressor attachment is going to mean that you earn more salvage. So no matter your weapon build, no matter your zombie build, you should be putting a suppressor on your gun if given the option to do so. We've all been screwed by the Terminus lift going up or down at the worst time, but it's not completely random.
Oh, brother.
Oh, god damn it. God damn it. All right, I'll see you after the long run. You can actually see when it's going to move in advance by checking this screen on the lift. Once the bars fill all the way up, that's when it becomes overloaded and moves position. Next, some of you might struggle with exfils a little bit, and if you do, my recommendation would be to save your favorite score streak for the end to make it easy. But if you're on Liberty Falls and you haven't got a score streak, then I've got another tip for you here instead. So you're going to head to the roof of the bank, even if that's not where your exfil is, and you're going to look down through this window. You're then going to shoot the nuke down there for a free nuke power-up, and that's going to kill most of the exfil zombies and do damage to the abomination, and just overall will make your exfil a hell of a lot easier. Next, did you know that power-up drops aren't actually completely random? Basically, at the start of each game, all the power-up drops could spawn in. And then one by one, as they spawn into your match, the game is going to start crossing them off, and it's only going to be the remaining ones that haven't dropped that are available still. And then when all the power-ups have been crossed off that list, then the list refreshes and you get a new series of power-up drops. And that's why sometimes in a game, you'll see that you get all the other drops and then you know exactly what the next drop's going to be, because it's the only one you haven't got yet, which might be insta-kill, let's say. And then if you get an insta-kill next after that first insta, you know that your drop cycle has just reset and you're on to the next group. Next, for a bonus tip here, when you're on Liberty Falls, if you go to the second floor of the motel and walk by this door, a bunch of zombies are going to spawn in and you'll be able to get a bunch of kills and farm some easy points. But you might as well wait until you have your first double points active to go up to the door so that you form double the easy points while you do it. And as a bonus for the bonus here, I also recommend if you get a bonus points drop to just leave it sitting on the ground for as long as possible to see if you can get a double points drop shortly afterwards, and then you can pick up your double points first and then you can double your bonus points. And it's just an easy way to get a bit of extra cash at the start of your game. Next, in Black Ops 6, health isn't really the biggest problem. It's actually health regen. And the solution to this is actually to buy Quick Revive first. It will shorten the time that it takes for your health to start regenning. And if you've got augments on it, like the Dying Wish augment, for example, Quick Revive will also save you from death 3 times. So it's massively clutch. And in my opinion, it's a really good one to pick up as soon as possible. Next, when you go down in zombies, you're going to keep the first 3 perks you purchase. Like, those are going to be the perks on the bleed out bar, and if you get revived fast enough, then you'll keep all 3 of them. And so the first part of this tip is just to think about your purchase order, because you don't want to buy PhD last and then be in a boss fight and go down and lose PhD, and then, oh no, you've got Mustang and Sally's and now you're going to blow yourself up. But there is an exception to the rule for how this works, and that's that Quick Revive, no matter when you buy it, is going to leapfrog all the other perks, and it's going to go into your first perk slot. And that'll also mean that if you lose Quick Revive because Dying Wish procs, and then you rebuy it, it will also teleport back into your first slot. So you won't lose it when you go down unless you lose it on your bleed out bar. Next, if you slide into your teammate before you revive them, you can start the revive mid-slide, but then you can keep sliding further and just get an extra bit of separation between you and the zombies that are chasing you. And that can make all the difference when you're making a risky revive. So try some slide revives out and see how they go in your games. You can use Tribologist to zoom over this massive pile of cars so you can quickly shortcut your way to the other side of the map in seconds. And you can use Aether Shroud to do the same thing. Another Aether Shroud skip is possible in Terminus, where you mantle over the side of where the Pack-a-Punch lift is, and then you use Aether Shroud to jump forwards and avoid having to fall in the water and then swim up and then walk all the way around to get back onto the platform. Next, Black Ops 6 Zombies has a self-revive limit. You can only buy 3 self-revives per game using salvage, which is really awkward if you're trying to do really high rounds, for example, but fortunately, you can get self-revives from other means. And one of the best way to farm opportunities to get them is the SAM Trials machine. But you can also get them from killing elites, and you can get them inside the vaults as well. But you might be wondering, what are the vaults? And I'll answer that for you now. So on Terminus, Liberty Falls, and Shattered Vale, you can get these key drops from specials and elites. And on Terminus, if you take that key over to this armory door, it'll open up and you'll be able to get some free loot from inside, including potentially a self-revive. And just like Terminus, take the key to this door on Shattered Vale to access the armory there. But on Liberty Falls, the process to get into the vault on that map is a little bit more involved. So you need to find 3 sticky notes. The first code is inside the bank itself. There's just a little sticky right here. The second is inside the comic book store where Quick Revive is. Just go into the middle of the room and you'll be able to see the sticky. And the third is in the bowling alley, and you'll need to shoot this little bucket of, I don't know, drinks or something. And underneath you'll find the third code. And you can see the order they're meant to go in because it's indicated on the sticky. And then you just need to go back to the vault and enter the codes one by one. And when you do that, bingo, your vault will be open for the rest of that match, and now anytime you come back with a key, you can open the vault. And like I said before, you can get lots of nice rewards from inside. Next, Citadel doesn't have a PhD machine, but there is a way to get that and more for free. The first thing we need to do is pick up 3 bottles around the map. The first one is in the Undercroft, and it's going to be next to a guy just laying out on the couch. He's just chilling, dude, and maybe we're grabbing his beer bottle. Sorry, buddy. The second beer bottle can be found just across from Stamina, and it's on this shelf just by the, I think, bottom rack. And the third beer bottle is near a couch again, but this time it's in the room with the 4 knights, so follow where I'm going in the gameplay here, and you'll find the bottle on the floor. So grab that, and once you've grabbed all 3 of those bottles, head back to the spawn area and come into the bar. Once you're in there, go behind the bar, and you'll see this little silver tray that you can interact with. Hold square on that, and this is gonna then basically turn you into a bartender. So what's gonna happen is a bunch of zombies are gonna spawn in, and you need to give them drinks according to their color. So each time you do so, it'll give you a bunch of points, and you just need to continuously do this for a couple of minutes, and you'll get a huge number of points from it. And then at the very end of it, once you've served all the zombies all their drinks, you'll get yourself your free PhD. Next, similar to how Citadel doesn't have a PhD machine, Liberty Falls doesn't have a Deadshot machine. But you can get it for free by running over to the graveyard by the church, heading up here to the right and aiming down sights and looking at these 5 cans. You just need to ADS on them and shoot all of them in a row without missing a shot. And this is very easy to do with a scoped weapon. And when you do that, you'll be rewarded with a free Deadshot. And if you fail, you can just try it again the next round. Did you know that special and elite kills recharge sword ultimates faster? The light sword recharges with 35 normal zombie kills, but in my game, it took 7 to 8 doppelgasts to fully recharge it. So prioritize those if you want a quick ultimate. Next, if you find yourself surrounded by zombies, one of the best ways to get out of that is by using score streaks, but different score streaks can be used in different ways. So there are a few laptop score streaks. One of them is the Hellstorm, the other is the Chopper Gunner. And what a lot of people don't know is that they don't actually work consistently constantly underground. So if you're on a map like the Tomb, you're not going to be able to pull out your Hellstorm missile. Like, it's just not going to let you. Another option would be the Mutant Injection. And the only issue with this is that it's used for a lot of the high rounds in Black Ops 6 Zombies. So a lot of people kind of get bored of it. And so if you are tired of that, my recommendation would be to try the War Machine. But this can be a really fun one to exchange your Mutant Injection for. Next, the most slept on score streak in Black Ops 6 Zombies has got to be the RCXD. It's perfectly fine. It just needs to be used correctly. So you're going to deploy your RC and then you're going to drive it to somewhere where zombies can't hit it. If you do that, it's just going to continuously rack up kills for a while. So if you've got a teammate that needs to go AFK for a couple seconds and I don't know, you've run out of server pause or something, then yeah, this could be an option, I suppose. Next, score streaks are reliable for many things, including saving your life, like I've said, but you can't rely on them to charge your field upgrade, unfortunately. So don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, I need to get my field upgrade back, I'll just whip out a score streak. It's not going to work. And there's actually no way in the game to charge your field upgrade faster. It's actually impossible, really, unfortunately. Okay, I'm lying to you. There is absolutely a way to do it. There's actually multiple. So to start with, if you got an insta-kill, just pop a load of heads, boom. Fast field upgrade charge. Easy. Number 2, you'll need Speed Cola for this one, and you'll need the augment called Supercharged unlocked, and that will charge your field upgrade faster. Number 3, if you get a full power-up, that will obviously max out your field upgrade, but crucially, it will also give you your full field upgrade charge even if you pick up the power-up while you're in the usage of another field upgrade. And number 4, you can use the Gobblegum called Arsenal Accelerator, and while active, I've found that it basically halves the amount of kills that you need to charge your field upgrade to full, and it lasts 5 minutes. So it's a really good one to use, and it's blue, so you can just spam it and not be too worried about running out. Next, parasites on special rounds can get really annoying really fast, especially in the earlier game. The fact that they're always moving makes it kind of hard to kill a lot of them at once, but on any map, if you just go in an area with a low ceiling, the parasites will follow you in, and they move around a lot less, so they're much easier to kill, especially if you've got something with splash damage like Pack-a-Punch Sally's. Next, smoke grenades. You might have used them before, and you might have thought, yeah, this kind of sucks. It doesn't really seem to be doing anything. But there is a technique that you can use to make them much more effective. First of all, if you're in the smoke just generally, and a zombie is in the smoke with you, you guessed it, it's going to attack you. Kind of self-explanatory. But if you throw a smoke away from you and the zombies, and then you go into the center of the smoke, that will then obscure you from all the zombies that are nearby. And that will last until you leave the center of the smoke or until the smoke expires. Next, one of Death Perception's abilities highlights enemies through walls, but there's actually a way to enhance this ability by changing your settings. So open up the search bar in your settings and type in contrast, and then when you see high contrast mode, switch that to on. And then in show more, you can see a bunch of individual settings if you want to customize it to your preference, including setting high contrast type to either full color or outline, again, depending on preference. Next, on Liberty Falls, you can get free perks, ray guns, Pack-a-Punch crystals, and a whole lot more from a vending machine. It's in the spawn area, and you just need to head over here and melee the bottom part of the vending machine. It will drop you an item, and then the machine will reset, and you'll be able to melee it again the next round, and you can get some really crazy loot from it. And you need to do this without having melee macchiato on, because that will destroy the machine. Next, on the tomb, a lot of people think that you're meant to just shoot these spores to open them up and get loot from them, but I think that the best way to do this actually is not to just melee them regularly, but it's actually to hold your melee button down when you're next to a spore, and you'll see hit markers ticking against the spore, and it will then open up a second later, and you can shoot the little fairies that fly out for some extra loot. Next, don't underestimate the dig sites on maps like Terminus and the Tomb. Once you find yourself a shovel, and the shovel spawns tend to be fixed, so you can just pick one of those up in the same spot every single game, you can start digging for treasure, and if you're lucky, you can get multiple free perks as rewards. For a bonus tip here, if you have Death Perception on while you're digging around with the shovel on the tomb, you'll eventually collect 3 glowing green balls from different dig sites around the map. And if you take those glowing balls to the room with Death Perception in, and you hold square on this statue next to the constellation puzzle, you'll put your balls into it, and then you'll have to do a little lockdown sequence, and you'll get a free ray gun from it at the end. Next, I mentioned that you can dig on Terminus and the Tomb, but what about Liberty Falls? It doesn't have a shovel Easter egg, right? Wrong. Actually, if you go to this rooftop near the sniper wall buy and look at this barrel here, and then you blow that barrel up with an explosive, so it could be an explosive weapon, you could throw a grenade, you could use a chopper gunner, etc. You can destroy the barrel and that will fling a shovel into the air and it will land in the grass just in front of that wall. You can then pick up the shovel and head over to the graveyard and then dig up all of the graves, and each grave will give you a different reward. Next, there's a free random perk Easter egg on the tomb. So come to the speed cola room with either a Molotov or Napalm burst on your gun and light one of these 6 bowls on fire. And if you do just use a Molotov, that's great news because you will then get a free Molotov from the bowl, and so you can use that molly to light the next bowl, and that will give you another molly, and you can light the next bowl, etc. And once you've lit them all up, you'll get a free perk. Next, get a free random perk by going over to the bar after you've completed the brain rot bartender step in Shattered Veil, and then press square on the bell as fast as you can, and once you've pressed it 115 times, you'll get a free random perk. Next, on Liberty Falls, if you blow up this head on this little spike over the church, loot is going to rain down from the sky, including a guaranteed Aether tool, but many people actually do this kind of wrong. So first of all, try doing it with a concussion. You can get concussions pretty consistently from the crystals in the church as well if you haven't got anything on you. Not only that, I really strongly recommend waiting until you're on round 10 or above, and that way you're going to get a free blue Aether tool instead of a green Aether tool, and that's going to mean that you're going to save the 500 salvage to go from gray to green and then the 1,000 to go from green to blue. So that's 1,500 salvage just for waiting a couple extra rounds. And speaking of free weapon rarities, the tomb has a very similar Easter egg with these waterfalls, and that gives even better rewards. So by round 8, you're going to get a blue Aether tool for this, round 11 is going to give you purple, and round 21 is going to give you gold on the tomb. So the way it works is you need to come to the green portal in the Dark Aether Nexus and shoot the 2 waterfalls while you have Cryofreeze equipped, or you can just use the ice staff. And once you do that, it's going to spawn in your reward on this little platform here. And so I hear you cry, oh, Milo, I don't have Cryofreeze. What am I going to do? And the good news is on the tomb, there's a way to get that and get a Pack-a-Punch level for free. So in the Dark Aether Nexus, go to the center area and look for a rock with this little kind of shimmery, lightning-y kind of look to it. And you need to shoot that rock, and that will then start 5 other rocks orbiting the center of the Dark Aether Nexus. Shoot all of the rocks, and if you shoot them all quickly enough, they'll all freeze in place and you'll hear this ascending tone as you do it. And with the 5th shot, you'll then get a bunch of free rewards in front of the Pack-a-Punch area. And one of those rewards will be a free Cryofreeze, so you can then go and do the Waterfalls Easter egg. Next, you can get free perks, pap levels, and more from the many underwater crates on Terminus. So these crates can spawn randomly on the island shores, the hole in the shipwreck, and in the biolab. And if you find all 10 crates that have spawned into your match, you actually get a random perk power-up. Nice. Now, before you start torturing yourself looking for all the 10 crates that you've got in your game, I would recommend that you reduce your risk of drowning. So to do this, come to the Pack-a-Punch lift and look for this rock down in the water. If you hit that rock with any kind of explosive, such as C4, grenades, or explosive ammo, an oxygen tank will pop out that you can equip for the rest of your match. Now, speaking of swimming around on Terminus, when you spend too much time in the water on Terminus, the tentacle monster gets upset with you and it farts on you. And avoiding that fart gets harder and harder the longer it lingers. So get out of the water and wait 45 seconds total. And that's going to mean that the sea monster loses focus on you, but another fart will come for you eventually. It's just human nature, I guess. Next, if you're sick and tired of having no Casimirs in Black Ops 6 because they just drop so rarely, you're going to want to try this out on Vulturade, and it's going to mean that you're going to get back a lot more Casimirs from zombies than you otherwise would. Next, the SAM trial that requires you to get crouch kills might be one of the most annoying ones in the game, but the way to make it insanely easy is to just go into crouch and then pull out a chopper gunner and just let the chopper gunner do the work for you, and your character is crouched, so it will still count towards your trial. So that's a legendary completion instantly. Next, if you don't want to put the Pack-a-Punch camo on your gun and you want to keep your blueprint looking nice and clean, you can melee the Pack-a-Punch machine before you pap, and that will stop it from applying the camo. There's also an option for this in the menus now as well. Next, you can use multiple Gobblegums at the same time, which makes for some kind of weird combos like this one, using Free Fire for infinite ammo, and Profit Sharing to share points with nearby teammates, and Who's Keeping Score for double points. So think smartly about how you might be able to conjoin multiple gobbles, and your kills will no doubt become very profitable in the process. Next, let's talk about guns a little bit. This is going to be a sort of gun section. So first of all, Black Ops 6 has many unique Pack-a-Punch weapon abilities, including bonuses to critical damage, fire rate, ADS speed, reload speed, all that sort of stuff. But the game doesn't really tell you which gun gets which bonus, so I'm going to run through that information for you here now. And shout out to Flareon the Flareon for putting this together. So guns that get a bonus to crit damage when packed are the Siren, which also gets a faster fire rate, the 9mm PM, Grekova, and Strider also get it, and the Krig C gets it as well, and it's called the Crits Krig when you upgrade it, so I guess that kind of makes sense. For increased fire rate, you've got the ASG, which gets faster fire rate and a tighter spread, the PU-21, C9, Tanto, and PPSH. The Frostline also gets a fire rate boost and an ADS boost, and my personal favorite is the AMR Mod 4, because that gets a faster fire rate and faster ADS, and it's just crazy high damage anyway, so this is a really fun one to use when packed. For reload speed bonuses, the Marine SP reloads multiple shells at a time, and the Maelstrom also gets a reload speed bonus when packed. And then there are a bunch of unique weapons as well. So the AK-74 becomes a burst weapon, but you won't really notice it unless you switch it to semi-auto, because every trigger pull fires 2 shots, and they go out very quickly in quick succession, so you won't even really notice. The DM-10 gains a binary trigger, meaning it fires 1 shot when you hold the trigger and another when you let go. The TR2 has a 3-round burst, Pack-a-Punched. The PP919 increases its mag size by 400%, meaning the extended mag 1 goes from 85 rounds to 340. The GS45 gets explosive rounds, that's our Mustang and Sally like we said, but the catch is that it also decreases your mag size, so even if you've got the biggest extended mag on it, it's going to end up giving you a reduced mag size, so you might want to just consider some other attachment on it instead. And now for my favorite unique packed weapons, the Sigma turns into a 3-shot rocket launcher, meaning it actually becomes useful. The SVD fires shotgun rounds when hip firing, but maintains its range and accuracy when you aim down sight, so it sort of turns into 2 guns, it's amazing. And the LR762 converts to an explosive sniper, and might do the most damage to elites in 1 bullet that you can do in the entire game. The only downside with this one is that the fire rate leaves something to be desired, but it's still a fun option to pick if you're tired of just spamming the GS45s. Next, another salvage-related tip is that if your friend is much lower gun rarity than you are and you want to help them out and you've got spare salvage, you sadly can't directly share your salvage with them, but there's nothing stopping your friend from buying guns off the wall so that they drop their current weapon, you picking up their current weapon, going to upgrade it at the machine, and then coming back, swapping weapons out all over again and giving them their gun back. You just need to be wary of the fact that if you leave a gun on the floor for more than about 60 seconds, it will despawn, so your friend needs to be cycling the weapon over and over again through their inventory while they wait for you to come back, and that will mean that your guns don't get lost either. And for the record also, if you want a really cheap way to do it and the mystery box is nearby, do it with the mystery box. You don't want to be buying expensive wall weapons all the time. You can just do it by spending 950 points and getting guns on the floor that way. Next, let's talk about enemies and some smart ways to take them down. So, we'll start with every elemental weakness for each special and elite enemy. So, Abominations are elites and take extra damage from Napalm Burst and Brain Rot. Manglers are specials, and they also take extra damage from Napalm. So if you're on Liberty Falls, use Napalm Burst. Amalgams are elite enemies, and they take extra damage from Shadow Rift and Deadwire. Doppelghasts are specials, and they take Lightmend damage. Special Shock Mimics are Brain Rot super effective, but Elite Shock Mimics are also extra susceptible to Cryofreeze, or at least that's how it works on the Tomb, I'm pretty sure. Abominations are elites and take extra damage from Napalm Burst and Brain Rot. Elder Disciples are elites and are weak to Deadwire and Lightmend, but also Elder Disciples are weak to melee, so if they're really giving you trouble, just beat them off and you should be fine. And for any extra bosses that we've missed here, we'll put them in the description down below. They might get added after we've posted this video. So with those special abilities out of the way, let's talk about some extra things you can layer on top to do more damage to elites. So first of all, in your augments, if you put big game on, that's always going to help you take big nasty stuff down. But you can usually synergize it with other stuff as well. So for example, Cryofreeze with big game and freezer burn deals a very respectable 25% increased damage against frozen enemies, including elites. But it's not the best for taking elites down. I'd more so recommend Shadow Rift. And there was actually a point in history where that used to do 1,000,000 damage to elites, like it was actually that good, but it got nerfed, but it's still pretty good. So now Shadow Rift, when combined with big game, will delete 50% of an elite or a special's health bar no matter what. And this means it synergizes really well with some other stuff in the game. So let's say you're fighting an amalgam and you use Shadow Rift and it chunks 50% of the amalgam's health bar straight away. But then when you've got that, if you're also using Death Stare on Death Perception, that gives you a chance to insta-kill any enemy in one bullet if that enemy is below about 20% HP. And so you need to just do your 50% nuke and then get it down a little bit further, and then if you've got Death Stare on, boom, you can insta-kill the rest of the enemy's health and it's just gone. Finished. Next, a neat trick for getting a free Mangler cannon is to shoot the arm of the first Mangler that spawns in on Liberty Falls, and when you do that, it's a guaranteed drop to get yourself a Mangler cannon, and you can use that for some pretty sneaky stuff as well. So with your new shiny Mangler cannon on Liberty Falls, look out for 3 of these cars. One's located next to the comic book store, another is by the crafting bench near the church, and the last is in front of the church. And if you look in the back seat of each of those cars, one of them will contain Mr. Peaks. So use your Mangler cannon on that car and it will blow the car up and its boot will fly open and you'll get a bunch of free loot. And 5 rounds later, Mr. Peaks will respawn in one of the other cars, and so you can just rinse and repeat and get even more free loot, including potentially free wonder weapons. Next, don't forget that your wonder weapon often has an alternate firing mode, which is actually usually pretty OP. So for example, on the ice staff, if you whip out the end of your stick and then shoot someone with it, it'll revive them instantly if they're downed. With the swords, you can parry attacks to negate zombie damage, and you can also redirect projectiles, and you can even block boss damage with this as well. And you can parry amalgam sucks even while they are sucking you, which is really useful for kind of negating that damage even after you've been sucked in. So that's the swords. The jet gun nukes an entire area. It's kind of crazy. And the 3 Shadvale Mark IIs each have an elemental ability that activates randomly after shooting a zombie. The blue Mark IIs create a Wraithfire pool that kills and ignites zombies, but it only lasts a few seconds and has a really short cooldown. The purple Mark II drops a preservation sigil on the ground that negates all damage to the player when you stand inside it. And the yellow Mark II can create a toxic pool that damages zombies if they walk through it, and it lasts a super long time and is probably the most powerful of the 3 elemental abilities. And the Beam Smasher makes affected zombies much slower and they take extra damage, and this is kind of cracked because you just need to get those zombies to have that little yellow aura on them and then boom, you can wipe them all off the map. It's great. Now for a little bonus tip here, you may not be aware of the fact that the Ice Staff, sure, it can revive players like we said, but it does also damage zombies when you whip out its alt fire. And so if you've really got nothing else to use and you need to get out of a sticky situation, you might want to use that back end of that staff, and that could help clear the way for you. Speaking of wonder weapons, our next tip uses the Beam Smasher on Terminus, and specifically it uses its alt fire. So you're going to come to this island and hold the alt fire down on this rock, and you're going to kind of see a white glow starting to emanate from the rock, and then after a couple of seconds, it will teleport you back to the main island. Next, during the Easter egg, most people just pay 5,000 points for Peck to give them the code for the Beam Smasher, but I actually have a very basic solver on my website, chronorium.com, where you can just look at the symbols that you get on the sticky notes here and tap them in order left to right, and then click calculate, and my website will spit out the numbers that you need to enter into the machine. And if you're in solo, the zombies won't target you while you're on the machine, so you have a second to just pull up the website, tap in your 3 symbols, and then enter what it says, and that saved you 5k. In the meantime, if you don't want to use the website, there is still a way you can pay Peck 5k, but then you can get that 5k back. For this, it's very weird. All you've got to do is pay him the 5k, and then go to a area of the map where you see some bubbles in the water and you see fish underneath, and use a grenade to blow up the fish, and then you'll be able to pick a fish up. Then go to the mess hall area and grab this oil, and then just go over to this frying pan and fry your fish. Then come back the next round, grab your fish, and go over to Peck, and you can give him a fried fish, and he'll give you back 5k. Very straight. Next, if you're struggling on that one step in the Terminus Easter egg where you need to get a hard drive out of the tentacle trap because you don't know which tentacle trap you're meant to do it with, don't worry, I've got a tip that solves that problem for you. So you're going to look on the ground of the tentacle trap below it, and if there is a key card down there, that's how you know you're looking at the correct tentacle trap, and that's the one you need to shoot with the beam smasher. Next, building the ice staff is one of the hardest things to do on the tomb if you don't know the following couple of tricks. Number one, the zombies that will attack the staff are the purple glowing zombies, so you can train a horde of zombies away from the staff and then just focus on the purple ones, and it'll be much easier to keep track of what's going on and avoid taking too much damage. But by far, my favorite strat for tip 2 here is to drop energy mine turrets down next to the staff and let them do their thing, and you'll just have no trouble completing it that way because they'll kill everything around you. Next, on the tomb, I've seen a lot of people think that the Easter egg is bugged because they go through one of the portals and then they just fall through the air and die. But this isn't actually a bug, it's a feature. So to avoid this happening, when you're gonna go through the portal, take a look at the ground. If you see 3 symbols down there, you know that the portal is safe for you to go through and it will spawn you on a rock, as it should. But if there are not 3 symbols on the ground, do not go through the portal. Instead, you need to just wait for the portal to reset because you shot the symbols wrong. And once the portal's reset, you can then reshoot your symbols, and you need to do it right this time, and then you should get 3 symbols on the floor and you'll successfully be able to proceed with the step. Next, there's a bug that completely stops you from being able to sprint while doing the tomb Easter egg. So when you're doing the parasite trial by Stamina Up, you have to collect a bunch of purple balls. But if you pick up a ball and then the trial time expires, there's a chance for the ball to get stuck in your hands. And if that happens to you, don't worry, I've got a solution. Basically, you need to go through a portal to reset it. So you can go to the next round, for example, and then just jump through that portal, and that'll fix your issue. But if you really are having more trouble with it, then you can also just save or quit, or just down yourself if you want to, and that will get rid of the balls in your hands. Next, due to the game being online, right, it's an online-only game, some textures are streamed, okay? They're literally downloaded to your console or your PC as you play. So if you turn your texture quality down, you'll actually be able to stream the overall textures faster because it will require less download speed on your part, and that might mean that the textures, even if lower quality, are actually more visible. So give that a go. Also, if the symbols are just still not clear to you, turning your FOV down will mean that your overall view is more zoomed in, and it's basically like having a sight on your weapon, except it's built into your character's face. Next, if you know how to do the bowling Easter egg on Liberty Falls, it's going to come in really handy, and you can repeat the bowling Easter egg by coming over to this window next to the pool table and shooting the new pair of shoes on top of the toilet once they spawn in, and if they're not there, you might need to wait a couple of rounds. Now, if you don't know how to do the bowling Easter egg in the first place, I've got a full Liberty Falls side Easter eggs video linked down below, and it has the full explanation in there. Next, the Liberty Falls valve step can be a bit of a pain in the ass, especially in solo with no way to defend yourself, but if you time it correctly, you can actually use your weapon during this step. So to do this, throw a piece of equipment as you start the valve animation, and it should then allow you to use your weapon freely while you're holding the button down, and so you can kill all the zombies and you can get progress on the valve. Another tip for Citadel is that a lot of players get stuck trying to find the zombie that has the lightning rod, and in my opinion, the best way to do this is as soon as you get the lightning sword, you're going to run all the way downstairs to the quick revive room, and that's where the rod carrying armored zombie should spawn in, and then when you kill it, it will drop the lightning rod for you to pick up. Speaking of Easter egg steps, switching to Terminus real quick here, you can completely skip the lockdown step of the Terminus Easter egg if you throw a shock charge on top of the little door that opens when you go up into the secret room. And basically, when the shock charge like hits a parasite or a zombie or something, it kind of zaps the door open and allows you to exit despite the fact that you haven't actually finished the lockdown. And if it doesn't work for you, it might be because Treyarch's currently patching it to put it back in the game because they took it out of the game originally because they thought it was an exploit, but then speedrunners were enjoying it, so they put it back in. So it's a little confusing, but this is a thing that Treyarch will have in the game at some point. Next, if we flip back to the swords real quick on Citadel, let's talk about the lightning sword, for example. With that sword, when it's fully charged, but you've got the charge, like you haven't used the ultimate, and you're swinging it around doing regular attacks, it's occasionally going to proc Deadwire. So you get a free Deadwire usage out of it. And similar applies to the light sword as well. So make sure that you don't just automatically use your ultimates straight away, but you actually use them only tactically, and otherwise you maybe make use of some of these other passive benefits. Another really easy tip to implement for Citadel is if you're planning to do the Easter egg, spawn in with a shock charge and a Molotov, because you won't have to buy those then, and so you can shoot the box to get a lightning rod without needing to get Deadwire, and you can Molotov one of the bonfires for free, and so you're just going to save yourself a little bit of time. Next, when you're building the fire sword on Citadelle Des Morts, you probably already know that you can melee the purple-eyed zombies to get your health back before you go and put your fire energy into the dragon. But what you might not know is that if you slide into the zombies while you've got the fire energy, that's also going to get all your health back, and it's going to mean that you don't have to slow down and you don't have to stand there and melee the zombie. So this is just an opportunity to maybe shave a couple of seconds off your run. A similar tiny time save applies to the light sword. When you pick that up, it's going to give you a fresh set of glowing yellow parasites, and you may as well just use all those parasites to open the door straight away. You don't need to like take them out first and then wait for them to spawn in the next round. You might as well just get it done right off the bat. I've got a couple of tips for the Raven sword as well. First of all, if you're having trouble with the code, I literally have all of the codes in my dedicated Raven sword guide, but for just ease of access, I'm just going to whack this graphic on screen right now, which you can use to get this done. But if you don't know how to read the graphic, just go to my sword guide and I promise you it will explain it, and you'll never have problems with this sword ever again. But also with the Raven sword, what you might not know is that you can avoid spending points on the trap to get the Raven in the sewer as well. Instead, you're actually able to just use an explosive, a GS-45, a concussion even, or a Molotov, and just toss it in the sewer, and that will cause the Raven to leave the sewer, and you can then shoot it down from the sky as normal. Next, a quick tip for sliding super fast. This is kind of a slide cancelling speedrun strat. You're going to need to go into your keybinds, then advanced movement keybinds, and bind slide to any button of your choice, such as the mouse button, and then start sprinting, hold down the slide button, and while holding it, tap sprint. This will activate another slide, and then you just need to keep tapping sprint to keep sliding. And if you've got Tribologist and PhD Slider, it's going to look like this. Now, unfortunately, this can't be done on controller, but on PC, it looks crazy. Next, you can use the floor traps on Citadelle Des Morts in multiple ways. Firstly, you can melee the air to shoot the trap's projectiles at zombies, so even if you're out of ammo, it doesn't matter. And second, you can shoot at the ground with your gun to do AoE damage to nearby zombies. If you combine that, for example, with a rocket launcher, you're going to have crazy AoE damage. And this is actually a high round strat that some people use in combination with the Sigma. Next, at the cannon trap on Terminus, there's a little corner which is really easy to get stuck in, and it's really annoying when you do. But it turns out, if you do a 180, you can just mantle over the top of it and climb away. It's such a weird spot. A lot of people just don't ever think that they can go there, but it turns out you can. Next, did you know that you can actually jump up here? A lot of people think that you can only jump down here, but if you hold your jump button and you're looking up against that little wall, you can actually mantle up, which can be quite a good way to get out of a sticky situation. Similarly, on Terminus, you can actually climb up here as well, which no one really ever does, but if that area is clogged up with zombies, it's a really useful way to get around them all. And there's also this little mantle by the side of these stairs on Terminus, which can also be a little useful escape point if you need it. For this next tip, you guys are going to hate this because it's just fully pay to win, but that's Activision for you, I suppose. So there's actually a way to get 3 elemental effects on a single gun. You simply have to stack an ammo mod of your choice with the Dragon's Breath attachment, which will give you fire damage. And then on top of that, you need to be using the ASG DOA blueprint in the shop, and that's got a passive light mend ability that will deal extra damage to doppelghasts. So you get light, fire, and whatever extra ammo mod you choose to put on, all working at the same time. Next, there's a way to get infinite ammo with any weapon in BO6, and it works best with low ammo capacity weapons, such as wonder weapons or score streaks like the hand cannon. It's very simple. Basically, you equip the hidden impact augment with melee macchiato, and then you get ammo from melee kills. And this can kind of chain together and synergize in pretty crazy ways. So let's say you use the jet gun, and you do the jet gun blast to get down to 0 ammo. you can instantly refill ammo. You don't have to wait for the timer to start refilling. You can instantly refill ammo by just quickly getting some melee kills. And that means that you can do another full blast basically straight away. And then you just need to get another melee kill, and then you can get another full blast out, so you can rinse full blasts. And this is made even better on Liberty Falls by the fact that manglers take extra damage from melee attacks. So if you max Pack-a-Punch, max rarity your knife, you can basically alternate between your crazy OP knife and your jet gun blast and just do those infinitely and have a great time. Next, if you're playing on Citadel, there's an even better way to get infinite ammo. So you're going to use the Deadshot Augment Dead Again, which gives you ammo back from critical hits. And then you just need to pull out the lightning or fire incantation and use them to get kills, and they'll count as critical kills, which will refill your ammo. And this also works for the oil trap camo strat, which we'll be talking about in a moment. And I have a bonus tip here that takes this even further. So for this, we're going to go into our Deadshot Augments and turn on Dead Again, which refunds ammo on crits. And you'll also want to go to Death Perception and turn on Critical Eye, which gives you a chance for body shots to be crits. You can use this on Citadel to make all 4 incantations viable at refilling ammo, but on Shattered Veil, this combo is even better because it makes the Wunderwaffe have nearly infinite ammo. You just need to shoot and watch your mag fill back up. Incantations count as equipment, right? So they're going to replace your decoys or whatever, which is unfortunate, but that does mean that there are some perks that are associated with incantations as well. So first of all, if you're using Stamina and you use the augment called Hot Foot, which gives you a speed boost after you get an equipment kill, it's going to activate when you get kills with incantations. There's also an incantation that synergizes especially well with Hot Foot. It kills zombies on a delay, meaning that when you proc it, it kills one zombie and then it kills another zombie a couple seconds later and sort of keeps continuously giving you kills, and that's the Shadow Incantation. So give that a try the next time you play Citadel. Speaking of incantations, I mentioned how they're considered equipment in this game, and that means that they are in the drop loot pool from zombies. So if you throw the Picky Eater augment on for Vulture Aid, you can get more and more incantations dropping from zombies, so you'll basically never run out. Next, Abominations. They suck. They're just annoying, but fortunately, there's a few niche ways to deal with them. So first of all, Melee Macchiato's punch can one-shot the mouth of an abomination, so 3 correctly timed punches and boom, the abomination is dead. And you can also feed the abomination grenades and semtex and things to one-shot their mouths. You just need to wait for the mouth to be open and then chuck it in there and it will explode. Next, on Citadelle Des Morts, here's an easy way to kill any enemy in one shot. So after you activate the oil trap, you need to throw a Molotov at the ground to light the oil on fire, and that extends the trap's duration significantly and makes it an insta-killing machine. And if it doesn't light on fire, you might need to just throw another Molotov on top of the step here, but it should then ignite and you'll just kill everything. Or if you don't want to give that a go, but you still want to take out an amalgam really easily, then there's another option that you have on Citadel, and that's the Lightning Incantation. It's an extremely fast kill. It's just 3 ticks of damage and then they die. So if you're having trouble with amalgams on that map, make sure that you're using the Lightning Incantation. For the Fire and Dragon Sword, you actually don't have to use the sword to light the bonfires that you're meant to light with the sword in order to get yourself the incantation. Instead, you can light those bonfires using Molotovs, which you can craft from the crafting bench just opposite the jug machine. And that means that you don't need to get all those zombie kills to charge up your fire sword before lighting the bonfire. Next, be wary of shock mimics because they disable a lot of equipment. So if you throw a Casimir, a decoy, a shock charge, etc., it's just going to get disabled and you're still going to be in danger. But the good news is they can't disable monkey bombs. So make sure to keep a monkey handy if you're having special trouble with shock mimics specifically, or you can use shock charges on them. You just have to land a direct hit, and then it won't be able to be disabled and you'll be able to shut down the shock mimic much more easily. Next, if you're having trouble with the amalgam trial on the tomb, shoot this insta-kill power-up just up in these rocks here while standing near the arsenal machine, and that'll make it super easy to take that amalgam down. And on Shattered Veil, you can take the elite doppelgars down super easy for the free Raygun Mark II quest. So go into the elevator shaft and aim up at this insta-kill power-up a few floors above you, and then once that insta-kill's active, run to the doppel, enter the code, and kill it with insta-kill, and it'll die super fast. Next up, we've got some camo grinding strats for you real quick. So to grind Mystic Gold, which is 2k crits, Equip the Picky Eater augment for Vulture Aid to get infinite equipment, and then play a normal game of Citadelle Des Morts and get Molotovs. Once you've got them, you're all set up to do the easiest strat of your life. You're going to turn on the oil trap near Speed Cola, and as you do it, you're going to Molotov the top step like I'm doing here, and then stand in this corner to avoid damage from the trap. You then, crucially, need to hold the gun out that you want to get the crit kills on, and they're gonna count towards that weapon. So you can get your crit kills incredibly easily by doing this, and then just go buy more Molotovs from the crafting bench when you need more. So that was Mystic Gold. For Opal, which is 30 special kills, play the Tomb and start the Ice Staff Constellation step at a low round, and you can do this in directed mode if you prefer. And then after the first wave, special zombies will spawn at the start of each wave, so you'll kill about 5 or so specials through the whole process. But the trick here is to avoid killing any normal zombies, just kill mimics and doppelghasts. Then exit the area, so run outside of the purple barriers, wait for the barriers to disappear, and then re-enter the zone, and it will start respawning the wave that you left, and it will always spawn a special zombie. So if you only kill special zombies, you can then exit, re-enter, and just keep on doing this over and over. Next, for Afterlife, you need to avoid taking damage while getting kills, and an easy way to do this is to play directed mode on Liberty Falls and avoid opening up the bank doors, aka leave the jug building closed, and then head to the rooftop of the bank and open this debris on the rooftop, and then drop down and crouch by this window, and you're going to look for a locked door you can buy which will open the bank but not from the main entrances. Once you've opened it, you can hop down and enter the bank through the new entrance and then stand on top of the table here, and this is a great spot for you to do what you need to do. So I recommend you keep the round cap at round 11 by opening all the way to Pack-a-Punch, and then zombies are going to slowly approach you and they're going to prioritize mantling rather than coming straight for you, which will allow you to get a bunch of really easy kills without taking damage. Next, for Nebula, you need elite kills, which are by far the hardest to get. And I'd say the easiest method here is to go to Liberty Falls directed again and take it to the step where you put the LTG down to spawn in one elite HVT. What you're going to do is kill the HVT, that's going to fail the step, then you're going to go to the next round and you're going to repeat the process. However, there's a potentially easier way to do this on a Shattered Veil. So first you need a Casimir, go underground and look for this corpse and you'll get a free one. Then grab it, go up the elevator and go behind double tap to suck the canister through the window, and then go over to Speed Cola and place the canister in the yellow thingy here and kill the Abomination. The Abomination will then respawn at the start of the next round, and then you can just keep rinsing and repeating this every round to kill more elites. And another bonus tip here for the Tomb is if you get to the Trials step of the Easter egg in directed mode, and specifically the Doppelgast trial, if you kill 5 out of 6 Doppelgasts and then exit the trial room, it'll fail the step and you can run it again the next round for 5 more Doppelgast kills, giving you even more opportunities to kill specials. Next, let's talk about some endgame tips. So, one thing a lot of people sleep on, and which I slept on for a long time actually, is the Energy Mine field upgrade. It might seem like it's a bit boring at first, but if you have the turret augment and extra charge, you can set up 3 turrets at once and they don't expire until they've killed or shot around 40 zombies. So you can drop a turret, leave the area, come back 3 rounds later, and it'll still be there if there's been no zombies in that area during that period. This is especially useful on Terminus because you can access the boss arena before fighting the boss, so you can place turrets down in that area before the boss fight's begun, and then later when you end up going back in there for the boss fight, voila, your turrets will be there waiting for you. And it's also nice because you can switch off Energy Mine to another field upgrade after you've placed the turrets and they'll still stay there. So there's really no reason not to do this if you're playing Terminus and going for boss fight. And if you're on Shattered Veil, you can use Energy Mine turrets for the Vermin defense step. So throw down Energy Mine into the center and then just run away, so it's just Vermin spawning over there. Now in terms of high rounds, the easiest way to do it in Black Ops 6 Zombies is using the Mutant Injection, and the general strat that works pretty much everywhere is that you're going to collect as much salvage as possible by around round 50, and then you're going to start purchasing the Mutant Injection score streak from the crafting bench. Then go sit in pretty much any confined area that's near a crafting bench and go to town with the Mutant Injection, and that will clear all the zombies in a round, and then you can buy another injection in the gap between rounds, or you can just pick one up from the floor if you got a lucky drop. And that's basically the the high round strat for all of Black Ops 6. But let's say you don't want to do that, right? Let's say you want to mix things up a bit. Well, we just talked about those energy mine turrets, right? You can alternatively use those, drop them down as soon as you get a charge, and then just keep firing away with your wonder weapon or some other weapon of choice while you're standing near your turrets. And that will also do pretty damn well as well. Like with the ice staff on the tomb, for example, this is extremely effective. It's a completely viable high round strat. For our next tip, did you know that you can actually practice boss fights in Black Ops 6 Zombies? So it's very simple. You're just going to make use of the save quit feature. And the way you do it is you get mid boss fight, but you don't kill the boss. And then you're going to save and quit. And when you load back in, you'll be outside the boss fight. And you just need to flip the round before you re-enter the boss fight. And then when you re-enter the boss, you can get it down to low HP, save and quit once again, and then do the exact same thing. Load back in, flip the round, go into the boss, practice on the boss, etc. And this is also nice if you're doing a boss fight and you down and you're like, oh man, this is just the end of the world for me. In that scenario, you do have the option to save quit, reload back in, and you might actually have all your perks back when you load back. And it is worth noting here that the caveat to this is it will still consume Dying Wish charges on Quick Revive, even if you don't lose the other perks when loading back in. So just keep in mind that you will be slowly ticking down on those Dying Wishes if you do this. Next, there's a speedrunning trick on Liberty Falls that makes the boss fight a complete joke, and it involves sucking Aetherella into the boss fight, which I'll show you how to do now. So for the first one, all you've got to do is grab all the parts to Aetherella apart from the one at the church. So bring the jet gun to this little ledge and suck the little statue that you can see on this AC unit. And once you get it all the way into the jet gun, it will make a little sound and you can move on to the next statue. There are 4 of them located inside Ollie's comic shop. So there's one right in the entrance as you get in there, and that's really easy to find. The second can be found over here. And also, while you're doing this, I'd honestly just recommend sucking the room because it's going to make it a lot easier to find the specific locations for these. There's my third one, and my fourth is just across the room. Next, we need to find one in Liberty Lanes. It's going to be near the top of the sign on the word lanes. There's another one on the motel sign, and it's not the big motel sign, it's the one to the side of that building. And there's another one if you come up to the roof of the bank and then by the X marks the spot thing to drop down here, and you need to suck another AC unit to grab your final statue. But just to show you how this works, we're going to get every single one apart from the church one, but you don't suck the last one on the church. You just pull it into the church with you, and then you leave it there waiting for you to use inside the boss fight. And then the boss fight starts, you take out some manglers, you just use your alt fire on your jet gun, it's really easy. And then once you see that second mangler spawn in, you can just suck up Aetherella, and you get laser eyes, and you can just laser eyes the rest of the bosses in the fight, and you're done. It's incredible. Next, here's a way to get insta-kill everywhere on Terminus, which is especially useful for any mini-bosses or bosses that you're having trouble with. So let's use killing Nathan as an example. Here's the shopping list of things that you need in order to do this. You'll want Aether Shroud, shock charges to keep Nathan in place, Sally and Forth, that's the Pack-a-Punch GS45s, with Dead Wire, and we're also going to be making use of the free insta-kill power-up. To do this, you need to go to the crafting bench and buy yourself a C4. Then, take a ship all the way to this island, and when you arrive, you're going to see this kind of opening in the wall. You need to tuck yourself into the corner exactly the way I'm doing it, so go forwards and to the right until you kind of tuck in, and then aim exactly where I am aiming and throw your C4 while just standing dead still. Then, be very careful not to accidentally double tap square to blow up your C4 because you need to leave it there. And then later in your match, when you're fighting, let's say an Amalgam on round 16, or maybe you're fighting the Nathan boss fight, you can double tap square to blow up that C4, and it's going to spawn in an insta-kill on top of you where you're standing, and you'll be able to use it for your fight. Next, if you're struggling on the tomb boss fight, just know that the artifact doesn't take explosive damage first of all, so do not try bringing in your Mustang and Sally's. Don't try bringing in your ray gun. It's not a good idea unless you want to use them specifically for ad clear but not for boss damage. And the artifact also takes extra damage rather than reduced damage from shotguns because of the pellet spread. For this reason, the ASG fully upgraded can hit for 4,000 in one shot, which makes the fight significantly easier, so I'd really recommend giving that a try, and you can even throw Dragon's Breath on it to get extra wave clear for all the ads that spawn in during the fight. Another funky weapon that you might want to try out sometime is the D13 Sector Blade Launcher. I wouldn't do this on the Tomb, but it's really good on Citadel and Terminus. And you can also one-shot Abomination Mouths with it, which is kind of crazy. Next, max ammos refill sword ultimate charges on Citadelle Des Morts. So if you're already full and you see a max ammo spawn, you might as well use your ultimate. And then once you've used it, then you should pick up the max, because then you'll get your ultimate back. And this can come in extra handy during the boss fight, for example. So if you take the Raven Sword in and you use the ultimate on the boss, then the boss is going to give you your max ammo midway through the fight. So you can just use the ultimate on the boss again. And you can do this a couple of times because you get a couple of maxes. So that can be a nice way to just get a little bit of extra DPS. For a bonus tip here, if you are using the swords in the Citadel boss fight, it's a really good idea to run to the right while swinging your sword at the boss. This is basically because of the way that the boss is coded to stomp. And if you run the way that I'm running in the gameplay here, it's going to have a much harder time hitting you compared to if you were running in the opposite direction around the boss. Next, there are a couple of ways to make swords extra OP on Citadel. So one is with the Vampiric Augment for Melee Macchiato, which means that you're going to heal on hit. And the other is with Espresso for Melee Macchiato, which means that you swing a lot faster. And the combination of these leads to a really goofy high round strat on Citadel. So you're going to want to use the light sword, and if you've got teammates in your game, then they can use whatever other swords they desire. But the light sword is going to mean that when fully charged, it's going to regen armor on hit, and you'll then also want to put on Vampiric and Reactive Armor on Jug. You can then sit in pretty much any corner, but I quite like doing this one for the quick get out of jail free card. If you need it, you can just hit the sewer pipe and you're fine. You can sit there and just constantly swing, and your teammates can sit there as well and constantly swing, and nothing's really going to be able to touch you. Next, we know that Vulnerabine means that your ammo mods do extra elemental damage, but did you know that it actually also affects other things as well? So if you're using Vulnerabine, not only will your ammo mods be boosted, but your incantations on Citadel will as well, and things like your field upgrades like Energy Mine will deal more electric damage to amalgams, and Molotovs will do more damage to manglers and abominations as well. Next, on Terminus, this is a little speedrun trick that I started using in most of my games, so I'll go into this room to get the free double points, but then to get back to the middle section of that area faster, I'll just climb through this window. And as you can see, that gets you back to that central area very quickly. Next, this is a weird tip, but higher rarity doesn't actually make you do more damage in some scenarios. So for example, if you're fighting Patient 13 in Terminus, you don't need to max out the rarity of your GS45s. Instead, you can leave them green or blue rarity and you're going to be just fine, and putting them up to gold rarity is actually hardly going to contribute to you doing more boss damage. It will mean that you do more zombie damage, don't get me wrong, but the boss damage won't really move. So keep that in mind when you're fighting bosses in Black Ops 6. Next, don't forget that you can swap field upgrades during any part of the gameplay in Black Ops 6. So if you go into a boss fight with Aether Shroud with extra charges, you can use up both of those extra charges and then, for example, swap over to Frenzied Guard, build up charge on that, and then use it, and you'll get your shields completely replenished. So those sorts of combos can make you a lot more effective and help with your sustain. Next, a lot of people sleep on Healing Aura, but if you use these Healing Aura wells, they'll heal you over time, and they can even automatically revive you if you go down and then you crawl into the middle of them. And this applies in solo as well, so it's like a free self-revive. Next, you can get a free Aether Shroud recharge on Shattered Veil by using this little Easter egg. So head down into the SAM AI mainframe chamber room, and you'll see this tiny blue canister. It will move around in your game, so you'll need to look for it on one of the benches in there or the tables. But once you find it, if you're on a different field upgrade, so let's say you have Frenzied Guard active, and you hold square on the blue canister, it will swap you over to Aether Shroud, and it will give you free charges. Next, I've got a ton of tips for killing the Z-Rex on Shattered Veil. It's framed for the round 100 boss, but you can use the same tips to kill the normal Z-Rex as well. So buckle up. I'm just going to info dump a load of really crucial tips here that I want you guys to kind of download into your brains. So watch all of the rest of this before you try the fight itself. So for this, just to get set up properly, we're going to save and quit on round 100, and we're going to swap over to the following augments. On Jug, we're going to run Turtle Shell and Durable Plates, not Hardened Plates. And on PhD, we we want Tribologist and PhD Slider. So once you've got those all set on, you're going to load back into your game. It's going to be round 100. You're going to flip the round to round 101, and that's going to mean you technically now can save quit again. And so if some emergency happens or something and you need to bail, you can bail and quit the game and then just reload back in and flip the round and try again on round 102 or whatever. But still, assuming things are going great, you've loaded back in on 100, you've flipped to 101, and crucially, you've bought a chopper gunner. You do not want to go in the fight with a mutant injector. You want a chopper gunner. So we know the fight usually is broken down into 4 phases, right? Your version of the fight will also be in 4 phases, but instead of only having 1 enrage phase at the end of the fight, like normal, you're going to have 3 enrage phases. And the enrage phases are when the boss is charging you down really fast and when it's jumping towards you really frequently. So let's break the fight down stage by stage to give you a bunch of recommendations to actually beat it. Stage 1 is going to be the non-enraged phase. This is going to be dreamy compared to the rest of the fight, so try and avoid using your frenzied guard if you can help it. And remember, you have turtle shell on now, so you're going to take full damage from the front, but only armor damage from the back. So you need to turn your back to a zombie before it hits you if you want to absorb all that damage. And you're going to do damage to the boss as normal. The way this works is you need to shoot the green crit spots on its side after it eats zombies, and that's going to do a ton of damage. And you also want to shoot its eyes to crit. So you'll do that with the blue Mark II, and then you'll swap to the Waff, and you'll use the Waff to clear out zombies, and then you can reposition and shoot the boss again. Doing this will get the boss down to 75% HP. It will then jump away. It will be away for 30 seconds, and then it will come back. And during phase 2, you're going to see fog roll in, almost like a special round is starting, and that's when it's going to start charging you much faster and being much more jumpy. So this is when you have to really lock in. The flow for dealing with the boss when it gets into this kind of mode is as follows. You're going to start off using your frenzied guard and just lay into the dino with your Mark II, trying to crit, obviously. And if you need to regain armor while your frenzied guard is active, shoot a zombie. And this is also especially important to regen a bit if you're using turtle shell like I'm recommending. Then once your frenzied is over, you need to look away from the dino every time it goes for an attack. This will mean that your shield absorbs all of its force and it will launch you forwards, and that gives you an opportunity to reset, gain some distance, and shoot the dino once again. And when it's in this mode, when it gets really close to you, it's basically going to be too fast for you to outrun it. So if you're dodging with PhD Slider and Tribologist, you're going to want to do that sort of diagonal to the dinosaur so that it has to turn to keep chasing you. That's going to be a little bit of a more effective way to reposition here. In general, though, you're going to want to be moving in circles around the edge of the arena and try and just stick to one direction, avoiding puddles as you go because they will slow you down a lot. And if you do at any point get caught in a puddle, don't turn around, just keep walking forwards because, like I said, you'll take 0 damage from the puddle so long as you're looking straight ahead, because any damage coming from behind will get absorbed by your turtle shell. As you're doing this, you're going to want to have your Waff out, and you're going to want to keep killing zombies in front of you with it so that you don't take any front damage. And you can even throw Casimirs during this as well, with Hotfoot also on stamina up if you want, so you can get a big speed boost. And so the combination of getting that big chunk of its health taken out with your first frenzied guard, and then the moments where you're moving around the outside of the arena and you can turn around to get some pot shots at the boss, should mean that you can get it down to that 50% health gate where it will jump away. And while it's up there, because remember, it's going to be damageable for a couple of extra seconds, shoot it until you see the immune text, and then you're going to go back to killing zombies with the Waff and clearing out everything in front of you, and also using that as an opportunity to get ammo and stuff too. Now, a tip for the fight is if you don't have a self-revive when you go into the fight, if you go near Richtofen, he'll give you a self-revive. Or alternatively, if you go into the fight with a self-revive, but then you use it, go over to Richtofen and he'll give you a self-revive. He'll only give you 1 total in your match, but still, make the most of it if you have a missing self-rev. And also, Richtofen gives you armor and ammo every 60 seconds or so it's worth going near him and getting that armor to replenish your turtle shells as you rotate. By killing as many zombies as possible with your Waff as you rotate around the room and as you wait for the dino to spawn back in, you should be able to get your frenzied guard charge back again for the 3rd phase. But if you're struggling for some reason, or things are just especially crazy, crazy, this is why I recommended the blue Power Keg Gobblegum at the very beginning of this guide. That is going to mean that you can get a free full power, and so by grabbing that, you can do even more boss damage in another frenzied usage and bring the boss health down even further. So the combination, whether you've got Power Keg or not, of frenzied guarding, doing a bunch of damage, and then evading the boss on the outside of the arena, avoiding the green puddles, and absorbing damage with your turtle shell is what's going to get you through that third phase. And then for the fourth phase of the fight, that's when we're going to use the chopper gunner. But let's say you're still struggling before that phase, right? Another couple of pro tips that you could try out here. Number one is if you go down and then you self-revive yourself, you're only going to have a couple of perks, right? So what you might want to do in that moment is to save and quit when you're on full health, then load back in. It's going to load you in outside the boss fight, and you can then just perk back up and go to the next round so that you can save quit again if you need to, and then go into the boss again. And that kind of gives you another chance at it. Also, if on your way to round 100, you already used up all of your dying wishes, or if you use them up trying to do the boss and then you save quit to reset, it will remember that you've lost those dying wishes. And so at that point, I would switch to the equivalent exchange augment. And that will mean that when you're downed, you can shoot a zombie to revive yourself. So that's an option for you. Also, a tip for that last phase is I've popped the chopper gunner fairly late in the phase here, but you can definitely pop it earlier than I have. And I think the way that you should sort of be thinking about this is it's better to pop it at the start of the phase and then have to kill the boss manually at the very end than it is to pop it late in the phase, but then die before you even get there. You know what I mean? Like, you might as well do the easy thing first. So pop the chopper gunner early in the fourth phase, and then if you've got any last health remaining at the end, then that's where you can just kind of clean up the last little bit. To get gold regenerating armor on the tomb, first head down to the Dark Aether Nexus and break these two boxes. One is just here next to the jug machine. Melee it like 3 times and it should break, and you can pick up the statue head from inside. And the other box is by the green portal on the left side, just here. So break it open, grab the head, then go back to the spawn, place both of the heads on the statues, and you'll then be able to start the blood sacrifice, and the 2 statues will each spawn in their own set of enemies. So the statue at the bottom will spawn mimics, and the one at the top will spawn doppelghasts. So if you really want to make this as efficient as possible, a couple of recommendations for your augments would be to equip retaliation on Jug, which means you do more damage while your health is low, and Big Game, which lets you damage elites, and Freezer Burn for Cryofreeze. I'd also recommend Citrus Focus, and make sure you've also bought Elemental Pop, and Vulnerabine is a good one to use for Elemental Pop as well, and the 2 of those will give you your only equipped ammo mod and increased enemy weakness damage. And if you don't have Elemental, for the record, you can get it from the Wunderfizz from round 25 onwards, or you can just get a random perk drop. And the last 2 things that I'd really strongly recommend are buying 2 or 3 plate armor and using Frenzied Guard with Frenzy Fire and Extension to regen armor for yourself while you're in the blood sacrifice. And then you're going to just start the blood sacrifice, and you'll get your 3 mimic HVTs, and you're going to want to run in circles around the spawn, shooting at those elite mimics whenever you can. Kill the 3 mimics, and that will complete the first blood sacrifice. Then apply Light Mend for extra damage and activate the second statue, and then 3 elite doppelghasts will spawn. And make sure you have a charge of Frenzied Guard before you start this. That will make it a lot easier. And once they're dead, go upstairs towards the PAP location and buy your golden armor for free. So that's a lot of tips that we've covered so far, but if you're looking for even more map-specific tips, I've got you covered with what's on screen right now. There's links to different videos you can click through to covering the different Black Ops 6 Zombies maps, and all of them will help you become a master of the game. I'll see you there.